I could have been one of Epstein's victims. I was watching the Jeffrey Epstein doc on Netflix last night and I'm spooked. Had a mini panic attack with all these memories flooding in. As I'm laying in bed watching, a girl's face flashed across the screen and I recognized one of his victims as one of my really good childhood friends. I don't know if it belongs in this subreddit, but here's my story. I've lived in South Florida almost all my life with my crazy controlling parents that wouldn't let me do anything as a kid. No phone calls to friends, no extracurricular activities unless it was academic, couldn't have friends over and you can forget about me going over to anyone's house. Plus, my dad worked at my school during my elementary school years so I had to be on my best behavior. So, when I went to middle school, I was so fucking pumped. Finally some type of freedom, my personality started to shine, and making friends came easy for me. Fast forward to a year in and I had become really good friends with these two girls, we can call them Heather and Sharon. They were both pretty, popular, and friendly, but what fascinated me most was that Heather was the only girl in middle school that I knew that was able to sleep over a boy's house. It was something so foreign to me since my parents told me I couldn't even go on a date with a boy until after I graduated, high school or college. They didn't specify. So I automatically thought she was the coolest chick I've ever met. Throughout our friendship, we were known as the tripod. We had all the same classes and lunch periods so we all got pretty close. Over time, Heather would always ask me to hang out with her and Sharon either after school or on the weekends, but with my parents, there was no way in hell. I did attempt multiple times to ask for the permission with no success each time, not even a maybe. I was so bummed because I always felt left out having Heather and Sharon hang out without me, something I would eventually become grateful for. One day while sitting out in the courtyard for lunch, Heather pulled me aside and asked what I thought about skipping school for one day. I instantly freaked and thought about that automated message the school calls home with to let your parents know you weren't at school. If my parents ever got that, my ass would be toast. So I shut that idea down right away, and kinda laughed it off because there would be no way to pull it off. But she literally would not stop asking, so eventually she convinced me and we were ready to start the planning. It took us about a week every day, during lunch trying to figure out how to pull this off. The thrill of it had me so excited as I've never done anything like this. The plan was to have my mom drop me off at school as usual and have the girls there waiting for me, and we would simply just walk off to the gas station that's near the school and have one of Heather's friends pick us up. Not sure how I planned on dodging the school call, but whatever. Oh, and I forgot to add. Heather made it a point several times to remind me that I need to wear something that would give me an innocent look. I blew this off because I was already 13 years old, I looked innocent enough. The plan goes smoothly and we are walking to the gas station, but as we're walking, Heather's cell phone is blowing up. Like constant phone calls and texts coming through, each one she answers just meet us at the gas station like we usually do. At this point, I'm confused because I thought it was supposed to be the tripod hanging out for the day. As we get closer to the gas station, I see a group of like 7 other girls standing there and they're around my same age range, 12 to 14 years old. Some girls I've seen around the school, others I don't recognize, but they all perk up when they see Heather walk up. All of a sudden Heather yells, "Who's ready to make some money?" And almost all the girls raise their hands and start cheering. I grabbed Sharon and asked her what she was talking about. And the look that Sharon gave me is one I'll never forget. It was like she was saying, "Get out now while you can." It just made me very uncomfortable and she never ended up saying anything. It was just weird, a big group of young girls who should be in school just hanging at a gas station. As we're standing there, 2 black Lincoln Town cars pull up and make a sudden stop right in front of us. Heather starts numbering the girls and tells the first group to get in the first car, and as they do, the car speeds away. The other one slowly rolls the window down, and I see this older man with sunglasses on just sitting there smiling. He asks if we're ready to go to the mansion, which excites the 2 other girls standing behind me. He opens the door and they both jump in, followed by Sharon. Heather is standing next to me and nudges me to go on, but as she does, I start going off on her, asking her what the hell is going on, where are we going, who is this man, and why didn't she mention this in any of her plans. She's looking almost annoyed at me and says, "Out of all the girls I bring, you're the only one that's giving me a problem. I thought you would want to get out and finally have some fun. And with your body, you could make a killing." At the time, I was so naive I didn't know exactly what she meant, but by the tone of her voice and how pressured she was making me feel, I ended up backing out and running back to school. As embarrassed as I felt for bailing on my friends, I feared my mom and her belt a lot more. Plus, going off in a car with someone I've never met screams stranger danger. I am so grateful that my parents put that fear in me, or else I don't know if I would have made that smart decision. After that, I barely hung out with Heather again. She tried a few more times, but I just got bad vibes from her and cut her off. But I always saw her randomly walk out of school toward the gas station, always with a group of girls. Sharon, on the other hand, started to spiral into depression slowly. She would only hang out with Heather and would cling to her like a lost puppy. I noticed she would miss school more frequently, until one day she just stopped coming altogether. Years later I found out she committed suicide, and recently, after watching the doc, I'm convinced she was one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims and Heather was one of his recruiters. Posted by you/wolf_dream. My hills have eyes moment in Texas. In 2010 I was driving from New Orleans, Louisiana to Eugene, Oregon. It was just me, 24/F, and my 2-year-old pit bull in a 14-feet U-Haul truck with everything I owned crammed into the back, a fancy flip phone, and my printout of MapQuest directions. I think the first smartphones came out around that time, but I didn't have one. Cell phone service was also much spottier, and there were long stretches through the desert where I had zero services for hundreds of miles. I was driving a lonely stretch of highway through central Texas when I realized I hadn't seen a town or exit for a very long time, and my giant U-Haul was low on gas. Just when I'm starting to freak out and seriously run out of gas, I see a small town coming up. I pull into this town and it is tiny. I was so worried about other things that I never did pay attention to the name of the town, but there were only about 6 streets in the whole place. I go gas up and am ready to get back on the road. Except I cannot for the life of me find my way back to the highway. I circle the town about 4 times and start getting so frustrated because this is such a tiny town. How TF can I not find my way out? I can see the highway but can't get to it. I return to the gas station to ask for directions. Now when I got gas, I paid at the pump and never went in. When I enter for directions, there's a skinny, nondescript guy who has black hair hanging down in front of his eyes that looks like it could use a good wash. He's not particularly creepy, but a little rude. He never really met my eyes. He was looking down at a magazine. He gives me directions that don't sound right at all. He's telling me to take a road that will get me to the highway in about 17 miles. For a moment I am dumbfounded. Then I point out that I didn't drive that far to get from the highway into town. Why so far to get back to the highway? I can see it from the town. He is so casual, almost like I'm just an annoyance and can follow his directions or not. Why should he care? He gives me some explanation about the road curving around that doesn't make sense. He still doesn't look at me. Just whatever, I gave you your directions, and waved his hand in the direction of the door. When I got into the parking lot, my whole body started trembling violently and my heart started racing, seemingly for no reason. I get into the truck, and as soon as I put the key into the ignition I burst into tears. I had the most terrible feeling that, no matter how nonchalant he acted, this man had bad intentions. I didn't know what, but I knew right then and there that there was no way I was going to follow his directions. Yet this was the only store in this little town and, short of knocking on doors, no, thank you, there was no one else to ask for directions. I decided I didn't give a shit if this town seemed like something dropped out of the Twilight Zone. I was going to drive around until I found my way out, even if it took all damn night. Then a big red beater of a pickup truck, as much rust as metal, pulls up and disgorges the quintessential Texan man, huge, husky, and in flannel and work boots. Without even thinking about it, I jumped out of the truck and approached him quickly yet warily. Looking into his eyes, I saw a kind human being, or at least I was hoping I did. I asked him if he could please give me directions to the highway. I told him I knew it was silly, but I just couldn't seem to find my way back. He looked concerned as I was visibly upset, so he made me laugh and very cheerfully gave me directions for a hairpin curve turnoff right at the end of a small concrete tunnel I had passed several times. He said it often confused travelers because it was so hard to see, they need to put up signs, etc. With a sinking feeling in my stomach, I asked him how far in miles was it back to the highway. He laughed and gave me a funny look. Miles, miss? I'd say it's a quarter mile at most, you can see the highway right from here. At this point I couldn't help it, I had to know. What happens if I drive? And I gave him the directions the man in the store had given me. Texas looked at me very intently and asked me how I knew about that route. It was pretty far out and usually, only locals know about it. So I told him. He was quiet for a few minutes and then asked what the attendant looked like and if I had a map of the state. Nope, just my MapQuest, which wasn't helpful in this situation. He goes to his truck and grabs a raggedy local map from his glove box. Spreading it out for me, he traces the route I describe. The way the man from the gas station had told me to go led away from town, away from the interstate, and led to seemingly the middle of nowhere. Texas told me that the road did go about 17 miles, right before it dead-ended in the desert. I asked him what was out there, and he told me that it was nothing but some junk cars and a few trailers and mobile homes, all owned by the same family. This family was known locally as troublemakers, meth heads, and alcoholics, And these were the nice things townspeople had to say about them. And the erstwhile clerk was part of this family and lived down that road. I'll never forget the look in Texas's eyes as he told me this. He also told me that I was smart to listen to my instincts, and he told me to be careful traveling out there. I don't know if the man from the gas station wanted what was in the back of my U-Haul or what was in the driver's seat, but thankfully I didn't have to find out. Oh, and I learned that sometimes angels look like ruddy-haired Texans with scruffy faces and rusty pickups. Thank you, random Texan stranger, you saved my ass and I will always remember you with tons of love. Sorry, I didn't ask your name, you're forever Texas to me now. Posted by you/spirit of Angie. I brought my 2 sons rape whistles to wear, and today they used them to alert me to a very alarming situation. So my stepsons are 7 and 10. They play with 5 other boys in our area who are of similar age and all go to the same school in our neighborhood. Now there is a police station in our neighborhood and we live in a city that is large, but we feel very safe here and have almost zero crime around us, so when they want to go to the park/play with friends, husband and I agreed it's okay. They will be gone for hours going from house to house, swimming, jumping on the trampoline, scootering, skateboarding. Sometimes they are all at my house in my pool. It's a good system. I am texting with other parents etc., so we have a pretty safe system. However, our state has been known for human trafficking because we are close enough to the border. It's just something I worry about. So I bought them bright orange rape whistles and tied them to their backpacks. Sometimes they all ride bikes to the school together. At home, I had them each blow into the whistle as hard as they could so they knew how loud it was and to only use it for emergencies, which we've discussed at Emergency S. Today, on break from school, the kids wanted to do a lemonade stand. Something in my gut told me to say no, that's not a good idea, even though they had their little garage sale around Christmas to make money to buy gifts, and the neighborhood thought it was so cute they got a ton of donations and made very good money. I didn't have any worries at that time. Today was different for me though. As my older stepson was making his signs, I reminded him about interacting with strangers and that he needs to watch his brother, and so he asks me, should I bring my whistle? I said yes. Great idea. I took it off his backpack and put it around his neck, and I told him I'm going to leave the window open. If you feel scared or if something happens, you blow that whistle like there is no tomorrow and I'll run outside. They were right on the street corner of our neighborhood, right where the main street through our neighborhood is, so a decent amount of cars go by. An hour or so goes by and I'm into a documentary when I hear that fucking whistle and my stomach drops and I dash outside to see a flashy red car. Like a Charger. I believe I was looking/running towards the kids, and so I wasn't paying close enough attention to the car, but I immediately see all kids are accounted for as the guy is getting back into his car, and my older son tells me our younger son, who really likes cars as does his dad, he goes to car shows and knows so much about cars, husband has a GTR from Japan and another racing type car they work on together, that the man in the car got out and was talking to them, asking them their ages, and invited my younger son to get into his car. I told my older son earlier, do not get into or near anyone's cars. So he said he didn't feel safe anymore and blew that whistle as hard as he could. My son said the car was what's known as a Demon, which I believe is a Dodge Charger, red. That's what my son told the police. I got a good look at the guy at least, but didn't get the plates. He was getting into his car as I was making sure the kids were accounted for and pounded the fuck out of his hood, asking him, why would you ever invite a child into your car? Before he drove away. I wasn't thinking clearly and was in a bit of a panic. So I didn't get the plates. I was right there. I'm so pissed at myself for that. But the kids were all talking and I just went into protective mode and called the police. The police said they searched our entire neighborhood for the car and put out a description of the guy and car with a now a possibly dented hood for me. And they put out an alert and are taking this very seriously, so at least there is that. I'm so thankful for that $10 whistle I ordered on Amazon. Sometimes you just know when shit is about to go down. Still so shaken up about it, and all of the kids and parents are super concerned. We have a community website and we posted about our encounters on the website for other parents to be aware of as well. I don't know for certain that the guy was up to no good, but if he wasn't, who he leaves so suddenly, you know? I dunno, my view on safety has been wrecked and it's going to take a while for things to feel okay again, I think. Make sure your kids have a plan for emergencies. They have intuitions also, and there is just something about that gut feeling you shouldn't ignore. It amazes me sometimes.